Upon me hills, so for country. To educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah. Focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah, 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 yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday, it's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs, hey, in diaspora, current affairs, hey, reliable information. Entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Focus on Liberia. My name is Sayegh, and I'm very, very honored and pleased today to have with us Sayegh Pleiwon, and we're going to discuss the educational system in Liberia. Many of you have read his article, which I call, Philip. When I read the article, I was like, oh my God, it is so incisive. It is so insightful, and you kind of bring the culture and education together. And it reminded me of Jonathan Edwards' Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. I was like, oh, he's angry. But let me do the proper introduction. Philip Pleiwon is a social entrepreneur and recognized human capital development expert with experience leading education reform in 6 African countries. He is dedicated to empowering young Africans with skills to drive the future. And he's not just a social entrepreneur. He previously served as private sector lead Millennium Challenge Core Compact Development Project, and he was chief of party at the IBI Global Insights. He is currently the CEO of Rise Talent Accelerator. And the article we'll be discussing, among others, is The Death of Potential, Liberia's Self-Inflicted Education Crisis. We'll be reading parts of it. I know that Boris have been reading it on Focus on Liberia. So get ready to discuss civilly educational system in Liberia. So Philip, thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
It's my pleasure. It really is my pleasure. Any opportunity to talk about our problems, our challenges, and think about the future, it's always welcome, and it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay, before we get into the article and the current crisis of education in Liberia, when I read the article, I never really thought about culture as a determining factor, towards success. And then I started reading, and I read this article, and Dr. Kapoor said that, and I quote, he says, culture, they're the systems of norms and standards that a society develops over time and which affects the way a society governs itself, end of quote.
Absolutely.
So culture is a determinant in the success of a nation. And then UNESCO says, and I quote, culture and education are the blocks for sustainable development. Absolutely. So now that we have set the stage, this article, I was sending it to everybody. Read. My daughter teaches in the New York City school district.
Okay.
And when I said that to her, she's like, "Mommy, everybody knows that. I'm like, no, 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 you don't understand. And she's like, I understand exactly what he's saying in the article. So first, before we get into it, what made you write this article? And so incisively, so the undertone is not only angry and disappointment. I feel like it is almost like there's no resignation. You're not resigned to this. It's like a
No.
wake up call to say, look, let's start this thing. So why did you
Yeah.
write this article?
Well, I mean, like most Liberians, I'm just tired.
Yes.
I'm just tired of this lack of imagination, lack of just. It seems like we've just given up on actually trying. And when I look around me, I look at the challenges we have. I look at everything, and I'm thinking, but these are not problems that we should have. It's
Yes.
not. It's not. And I wanted to because I'm in the education space and I've worked a lot in the sector. Um, and I grew up, in the education system in Liberia. I know the struggles I've had leaving the system. Um, and I wanted to communicate to Liberians in a way that was not political, did not distract from the reality of what we are dealing with. It was a letter to Liberians to essentially that we're the problems. We have ourselves stuck in a loop, and it just seems that we cannot figure out how to help ourselves. And everything is just so it's just that spirit of just feeling so down and somber about the challenges about so I wanted to connect with Liberians. I wanted it to be real. I wanted us to even if you're a leader, if you care anything about Liberia, to feel something, to understand that it's not just affecting whatever it's our life. It's what we've become. Yeah,
Yes.
so that was the energy, and it happened. It all kind of, we all complain and like we have these challenges, but it kind of just also came to a moment for me when, in the moment of frustration, I didn't know what to do, where to turn, and that writing was. It's not like I've been publishing other articles before. It's just this is just something that it was just me basically letting out.
It's an excellent article, really. For viewers, it's called "A Death of Potential: Liberia's Self-Inflicted Education Crisis." So go and read it. Ask questions that shows that you've read it and that you understand the issue. So let's start a little bit, and if I may, there will be snippets that I will read, or
No
because
problem. No problem.
okay. So you say so. Liberia ranks 155 out of 156 countries according to the 2023 World Bank Human Capital Index. That's low.
But it doesn't get worse than that.
Yes,
It doesn't get worse than that. And the sad thing about it is Liberians love to learn.
yes, yes,
Liberians want to learn.
yes,
I see. I'm part of a school in Liberia. Like I'm deeply connected to the education sector in Liberia.
yes,
Um, they're young people are eager to learn. They're always imitating anybody they think is a educated person.
yes,
That's and so but that failure, that the way we feel in them is just it's astounding because when I work with young people in Kenya or Uganda or Sierra Leone, wherever, the depth of our of the depth of the gap between them, between young people in those areas and young people in Liberia, it's astounding. It's insane.
Yes, yes, it's true.
Um,
It's true.
yeah, so so I don't so you the UN stuff, it's pretty evident in our society.
Okay, this is what I want. You, we're actively manufacturing ignorance, end quote. I'm not viewers, every time I'm reading something, it's from Mr. Pleiwon's article. Go and read it. So there's one, it says 88% of our teachers cannot pass the test they administer. So I went looking, and I think I think I got this from Legis. In Liberia, teachers require specific qualifications based on the level they teach, right? So primary school teachers need a grade C teaching certificate, which is
Right.
obtained after a 3-year program at a teacher training institute. A
Yeah.
junior high school teacher needs a grade B teaching certificate from a 2-year post-secondary program, and senior high school teachers need a bachelor's degree.
Right.
Okay, so what have you found?
Well, that's all good and all written down and stuff, but that's not the reality of our school system. That's I guess the policy is the ambition, I guess. But in reality, that's it's you have people who barely finish high school who are teaching, and we still have teachers shortages of teachers, even with those people. You have people who I tell friends the other day I found out one of my cousins was teaching. I was like, what? That guy teaching? That guy I knew growing up that he teaching? Did I don't like to call people dog, but that bro, that dude was different. He was special. The fact that he's a teacher now and has not gone to any particular gone through any kind of a cycle of learning and change for him to become that person, it's just evident of the system. These are the same people that were graduated by the system,
Yes.
and they're not the brightest of the system. I don't want to disparage the hardworking teachers in Liberia, but in the reality is the teaching profession in Liberia is not a calling. It's not something people choose. It's something they end up in. And a lot of the time is because, that's the easiest option that you can pursue that will give you some income. And that's also just because that's how we've made it. If you don't value the people, they're not going to value the profession.
Yeah.
So when teachers are struggling for basic things, it's what it is. So yeah, I just think that it's and then it's not even that the teachers are not well trained or there's not enough of them. Is when they do teach what they teach.
Yes.
The schools, it's the curriculum is basically just memorize something and recite it. That's it. That's learning in Liberia in a nutshell. Figure a way, memorize it is the easiest whatever that we think we can do. And as a result, we have a bunch of people, we are graduating, putting out a bunch of people who are not literate, but they think they're educated. Whether it's the universities, whether it's a college, whether it's whatever the case might be, or the high school, whatever, it's the same. And there seems to be a rush on the number of people that you put out compared to the quality of people that you can create. and there's no effort at any, at least as it is now, as of now, to rein that in. So in the end, you just end up with people who are have some reading skill, and they count themselves among the educated people. That's worse than someone who knows they don't know.
Yeah, we discussed. We were on another show and we're discussing, and I said that uh, when I graduated from the University of Liberia, um, I went back as a teaching assistant, and the only course I was allowed to teach was remedial English 003. No higher level course. You
Hmm.
know, and then when I came to do my degree outside of Liberia, I was shocked when you give you a book, you read it, and you get back in class, and the professor goes around the room and he says, "So Jackie, what do you think?" And I'm like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, what do you think about the book?" I mean, he puts forth his thesis. Do you agree with him? Why do you agree with him? And I'm standing there like, "What?"
Hmm.
So it's
Right.
it, it's it's almost um like being propelled, you know, to or you leapfrog into this world where the prior knowledge that you should have to actually stand your ground and defend your stance on a particular subject, you don't have it. you know
No.
so you have to play catch up. It's
Very
like
much so.
when I'm but now I'm so grounded that like when I was at the state university, I would be asking the students, "So what else? What do you think? What this?" And I find myself like, and sometimes I think and I'm like, wow, I would never have done this before.
No.
But I agree with you. So what the way you term it is educational theater. It says, I'm quoting from the paper: teachers performing the act of teaching, students mimicking the learning posture, and administrators pretending this charade represents education. What makes this crisis unique isn't its depth, it's our response to it. And I want you to just comment on that.
Well, it's we've been through a lot of challenges as a country. We've seen a lot of issues, and at the end of the day, we're not asking for perfection. We're not asking for anything grand. I just want to see that leaders understand the problems we have and are
Yes.
doing something towards it. For me, I mean, that's all human beings in general. That's what we want. We want hope.
Yes.
We want evidence that tomorrow will be a little better. That's all we want. If
Yes.
you want to lift a group of people up, give them aspiration, give them something to look forward to, give them
Yeah.
something to work towards, right? Our system doesn't have any of that. So even people that want to try, even people that could try harder, don't,
Yes.
because it's limiting, right? So we've just given up on that sense of creating any sort of pathway or systems or structure or thinking that could turn around the problems we have, could turn things around. I know, the Ellen administration try a few different things, including the bridge program. There were maybe a couple other things that they even toyed around with the idea of local languages, in school, in instruction. But we we're not learning and pivoting enough. Um, there's no identity to our education system that recognizes the unique challenges we have. You cannot copy and paste the American education system. You cannot copy Ghanaian system. It doesn't matter what they're doing in Sierra Leone. You cannot copy it. You have to think about the problem here and how people are, the communities and society are structured, for you to then start from there and then design what kind of people you want to create, what kind of citizens you want to develop. So that has to be the starting point. You can't just post numbers in papers and then say count it. So for me, the response is not urgent enough. It doesn't seem overwhelming enough, even though this is the biggest challenge we have of any challenge whatsoever. Our ability to get out of where we are is going to require Liberians. No one, and I mean zero, nobody can come from outside and transform Liberia. It would never happen. So the potential for Liberia to be better tomorrow depends on the kind of people we are creating as a society. So that's why our response to it, the lack of urgency, makes it particularly jarring and shocking that people don't see this as a problem, or at least not with the kind of emergency that we should be treating it with.
I like. Well, I don't like. What you say about manufacturing, ignorance, that we are not failing. I'm quoting: "We are not failing because we are poor. We are poor because we've institutionalized failure." So every time we celebrate a graduation ceremony where students can read their diplomas, every time we promote a teacher who wouldn't pass the exams, we are not just lowering standards, we are normalizing national suicide. Like the most dangerous thing in Liberia isn't what we like, it's what we've learned to accept. And I always say that better is always enemy of the good. you
Yeah.
know yeah, it's always enemy of the good. And I tell people that because I know that growing up in Liberia, there were times we didn't even have books. We will
No.
share books with each other. We will write we will write and then if somebody had a book, there was no photocopy machine, so we would have to start reading, then we give it to
Yeah.
the other person to read, then we give it to the other person to read. And the interesting thing, I'll tell you this little anecdote before we go on. I was in Liberia right after New Year, and we had walked to the university, my friend and I, and we were walking back. Okay. And then what happened was that I, I was standing there about to take a photograph in front of the city hall, right? And then I started laughing, and Frank said, "What?" And I said, "Look at the sign." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Dennis, I wish you a Merry Christmas. Merry is spelled wrong." And he looked at it. And then I said, there was an LU student passing, and I called him and I said, "There's a word here that's wrong. What is it?" And he looked at it. He said, "There's nothing wrong." And I said, "No, there's some word wrong." And then Mr. Dennis, Frank said, "Oh, it's married." I said, "No, it is not married now. What is the other word that's spelled wrongly?" And the guy looked, and I said, "Prosperous." Prosperous was spelled. I wish you a prosperous new year. There's no I in prosperous. So I took the picture and I put it on my Facebook, and I said, "Please change it," because I tried to go into City Hall. The security said I couldn't go in. So I put it
Mm.
on my Facebook, and of course they move it. I got so many emails back. Direct messages. "You don't have to do that. Not because you know everything." I'm like, you want somebody to take a photograph of this and send it all over the world and say, "Look, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year." And the Merry is spelled wrong, and the prosperous is spelled wrong. So my thing is, you're right when you say that we accept, mediocrity, because we say, "Well, at least they have a sign. At least they have a sign," but do it right. Do it right, right?
Yeah.
So as we go on, you talk about you start in an 11th grade classroom, right? And I'm going to read now. 32 students, all present, silent, and seemingly attentive. The physics teacher drew electron configurations on a board, his confidence masking a crucial fact I discovered earlier. He couldn't explain why atoms behave the way they do. His students dutifully copied diagrams they couldn't comprehend, participating in an elaborate education performance where learning was optional, but attendance was mandatory. That is so sad.
Yeah.
That is so
Uh,
sad, you know?
that's that's our school system. That's our education system in a nutshell.
And
Um,
yeah,
it
you
doesn't
said
matter what level you're on.
I mean, the paper is so well written that I think that we should, I mean, people should read it. But three examples you gave, and I'm quoting: a history teacher in Nima County teaching World War II with no mention of its causes or implication; a computer class where 40 students shared three broken laptops; a science laboratory where students have never experimented yet can recite the steps of the scientific method like a prayer. And then you go on to highlight the transformation taking place in Sierra Leone, right? So then you come back to Liberia where you talk about, and I'm quoting, you talk about perfect uniforms, polished shoes, polished shoes, walking paths to nowhere, proud parents photographing graduation where diplomas certify 12 years of sustained presence rather than learning. The symptoms of a nation that has forgotten the difference between schooling and education. End of quote. You know, I don't know if the political will understands, or the powers that be understand it, the crucial link between education and development. Because when we were discussing it a few days ago, and I was saying, look, if I have a factory and I want to come in, I don't want to spend the time telling the people, can you read the instructions? Can you read this? I am
Mhm.
assuming that you already can operate this machine. Because if you say, oh, I don't need to learn because I can always be a custodian, they have robots doing it now.
Right.
I mean, there are robots doing half of the work that we used to do. So now you have to leapfrog into uh, uh, saying, yes, I can grasp these and I can grasp these instructions quickly. You don't
Right.
have to tell me 3, 4 times. But then we come now to the lullaby. Liberians like to say, we are poor. Poverty, and I'm quoting, poverty is our favorite hit of helplessness, right? But according to you, and I'm quoting, the truth is more damning. We are not failing because we are poor. We are poor because we've institutionalized failure. So, okay, tell me about these students that in Burkina Faso, where there are no classroom, they are not better equipped. They have the same GDP as us almost. The teachers are no better paid, but these kids are like that. What's happening?
The difference is just they want different things out of the education system. The fundamental problem in our society, whether you're looking at the education system or you're looking across any other space, is that we're generally following or copying what people are doing or telling us. We have this sense of obsession with how other people are doing it, and then we just become focused on the mechanisms of it as opposed to the result of it. So in Liberia, for example, we're not measuring for result and impact.
Yeah.
We're measuring for presence, for attendance, for showing up, for just the completion of it. Okay, did you go? Did you complete it? It's more important than what did you learn or what did you achieve? What can you do with that? So in those countries, there's just a bit more emphasis. They have problems. They still have a lot of problems, but they just have a bit more. Their education system, for example, just have a bit more emphasis on the what constitute a sixth grader, and at what point does that person become certified as having completed the course material for the elementary school, to be then led to go to senior high or junior high. So it's the breakdown in assessing for what we want to. We don't know what we want to evaluate in these young people. So as a result, everybody is confused. Everybody is sort of just running here and there. Parents don't know what they're measuring, what to see as evidence of education or improvement in their kids' education. Teachers don't either. They're just following a system that was handed to them. And because they also have very limited capacity, they can only follow it to the extent they know how or they've experienced before. So it's more about the expectations that we generate in the system, which is what, one of the points I try to make in the article is that we just have very little expectation of excellence from anybody within our society, whether you're in a teacher or like excellence is just so that's the big difference between us and those schools in Burkina Faso and in Sierra Leone and in other areas. Just people as a community, as a society, just have a bit more interest in output.
Yeah. With the mediocrity in high school and then graduating and assuming that, well, I'm educated, I'm literate, I know, and not only am I going to have a job, I'm going to have a big job, and it manifests itself in the appointments when you get appointed, and like you say, the cognitive sluggishness of our people. And I'm sorry to say this, it's almost like sometimes when I go to conferences or other things and they say there's a Liberian, he just came from Liberia, he's going to deliver a paper. I'm like, hey God. I'm sorry, Philip, because I'm like, yeah, I'm like, oh, what's going to happen? And because it's like you have to when you go not only at home, but people who have been educated, I would say almost after the war, it's like you have to explain and then explain and then explain again, but then you grasp the concept of what it is you're discussing. Yeah. So it is like, okay, so we have Burkina Faso, we like, and then like you said, they say we like the infrastructure. We come back to when we were at the university, right? We didn't even have internet. So when Frank and I were at the university in January, walking through the garden, right? Just reminiscing, we're like, oh, Frank, remember this, and we saw this group of students and we went there to talk to them, trying to give them some advice and things like that. And of course, every one of them, what are you majoring in? Public administration. What are you majoring in? Public administration. And then I said to them, have you looked at the occupational handbook, right? That tells you the careers that will be in demand 10 years from now, And they said, oh, we got a book here, but you have a tool, you have your cell phone. The cell phone is not just for sending letters or writing people or watching movies. You have a portable library in your hands that you can say, I'm looking for I'm looking for a lucrative job. I want a job that will give me money. I want a job that's in demand. And
Right.
then, and then you can major in that. And they said, oh, we don't have, we went to the library. Of course, there were barely any books there, but you can use the telephone. We're talking about the fact also that how the teachers themselves sometimes they need to be innovative in teaching the students, right? So the students, everybody likes soccer. So maybe you can equate soccer to life. Let's write an essay on on soccer. The ball is your life. What are the challenges you have to go to meet your goal? You know,
Right.
instead of just 2 plus 2 is 4, 9 plus 9 is 18, things like that, because that's what they do. They teach by rote, and the students memorize. And once they come out of the classroom, and the learning has ended, they
Yeah.
don't see learning as being continued outside of the classroom. You know,
No.
they don't see that. And then, I mean, some of the parents, it's true. Look, I tell people, I say it's true that some of the parents, they're tired, they don't have the time. My great grandmother, who made me what I am, came from Rocktown and then Pleiwon. She, I think, stopped in third grade. The minute I entered the house, you have done your homework. Go do your homework. Come read to me. What do people say? Read a newspaper. Do this. It was constantly, because she acknowledged that education will propel me. So that's what she did. You have, and then when you bring your report card, well, she may not know, but if she sees a red mark, you better believe that you will be picking the guava tree. I mean, the rattan on the guava tree to get a beating. Why did you get
Right.
red? So those are the things that propel us, because they knew. Now, Philip, I want to be a devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm.
When we were at the university, right?
Yeah.
When they had the coup and we saw people who may or may not have been educated, driving big cars, spending money, living the life. Now, when we were going to school, they said, if you learn, right, you one day you can be this person. One day you can be a minister. One day
Mm.
you can be this. And all of a sudden, everything that we thought would happen, there was a disconnect. We saw people who maybe have never gone to school. They were riding cars. They were making decisions for us who were going to
Mm.
school. They could tell the university would be closed, when the university would open. So this disconnect continued. Those of us who had a strong foundation, who knew that this was not how it should be, we continue with our education to say, look, this thing is temporary, right?
Right.
It has continued after the war. It has continued in our country. Besides the educational failure of the teachers and the administrators, do you see the psyche of the students being damaged by this, to say, but how important is education? I don't think education is even important, because I can just go and get a job. It's who know you. It's not what you know. Do you see that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what happens. That's what this kind of breakdown, that's what makes this danger. That's, why it's dangerous, because when young people become disillusioned with the education system, then you basically are ended your it influences the kind of leaders you select.
Mhm.
It influences who control resource in your society. It influences all of those. And at the end of the day, you're now surrounded by people who just know how to spill BS, talk plenty, and showboat, and then railroad the rest of the people. Because at the end of the day, the critical group of people that are making the decision for who gets in power are not literate enough to even do the basic discernment that is needed in evaluating anybody for leadership role. So then tribes become more important,
Mhm.
identity becomes more important. All of these things become more important because they cannot evaluate people on the basis of merit. And these are all things that just create decay within the society. And we're still suffering from that. We're suffering from the fact that our population is not a very we don't have enough people that can demand better quality service from its leaders. When you talk about, for example, they the fact that students, they can't figure out, oh, I should go to YouTube, I can learn this, I
Yes.
can do this. The problem with that is the pursuit of knowledge is taught.
Yes. 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 Yes.
The hunger for knowledge or the
Yes.
desire to learn is something that has to be instilled within you,
Yes.
because it's a curiosity systems
Yes.
that is driven. The problem, those kids, no matter how much you tell them about it, the reason they cannot pursue it is because naturally they feel incapable of self-propelling,
Yes.
because the system, their upbringing, their orientation, the school system, everything taught them that there's nothing, they don't have anything. They have to get someone has to give them everything that they're going to get. So it doesn't matter how many smartphones are in their hands. All you're going to see is just people just blindly watching Facebook videos all day. That's what I see when every corner I turn on. When I walk out, I see the securities. They're all on their phone, just on Facebook all day, like watching stuff. But that's just because they're not curious about knowledge. And the
Yes.
only time people learn is when they are interested in the subject, when they're interested in the subject, when they actually become interested in something. You go to school, they can teach you, it doesn't mean you will learn. Learning is more of an interest. So is that discipline that needs to be cultivated? The only way it becomes an aspiration among us as a people generally is when the hardest working people succeed, or mostly. So, when it's mostly the hardest working people, or the people who are learning the most, who are most intelligent, are the people that we select and put into these positions of authority and leadership. Require that within the society. So it really touches on every single facet of our society,
Yeah.
every single bit of it. The households, those people are going to become parents. They will be the parents their parents were to them, because their parents didn't know any better. If the parents are educated, if the parents know the basic value of education, they parent differently. They hold their kids differently. So
Yes.
it's a cycle that needs to be broken by the government, by our system. We need to literally find a way to put a to put to stop this domino effect. And the challenge with that is it's harder to do. It's not like health, for example. Health, when you're sick, you get a treatment. People can see within a few days or a month, whatever, that you're getting well. With education, the investment required, it takes about 10 years for you to actually clearly see the dividends of the system of education working. So leaders in this so it becomes a much more complicated problem to solve. And people just throw money at it. They just think that, make the current system better. So keep training more teachers the way you're training them, a little bit of thing there. But nothing new is being, if you want to revolutionize this kind of thing, you have to literally switch it, to get people to literally switch up to it. You have to change dramatically some things.
And one of the things also is that, I mean, when I remember there's a restaurant I was in, I think on Macklin Street, and the people had lunch at the finance, right? And they went there to eat. Philip, were sitting there eating, and these people were just riveted on this African movie that was on. And then I mean they weren't eating with me. I was just there eating.
Yeah.
I'm a tourist. I'm there, and I'm watching them, and it's like they couldn't even speak to each other. They're just watching this movie, and then I'm watching 1 hour. So I'm like, how long is the lunch break at the Ministry of Finance? And the movie, the African movies go on for a long time.
Yeah.
These people are watching, and so I decided. I said, I'm going to wait and see. 1 hour, 30 minutes, the movie ended, then they got up. And then the guy was like, I will see you tomorrow. And the man said, are you coming to work tomorrow? Man, tomorrow Friday. I'm just sitting there looking. But and you are right, because it's like when you go to meet, and let's say we Liberians, we know some of these things. Let's say a foreign national who wants to invest.
Yeah.
He comes in and he goes to meet this person, and his secretary is there gossiping with her friend, or she watching a movie on the internet. She doesn't have time to even greet you.
No.
And, can you let me know your name, why you're here? Do you have an appointment? Things like that. That decorum,
Yeah.
the professional manner is not
No.
there.
It
I went
doesn't
to visit
exist.
somebody. I went actually not only to and the secretary said, but you don't have a cell phone. I said, no, I don't have a cell phone. That's why I came to the office. And she's like, they made a meeting. So I said, I'll wait. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And in 20 minutes, the door open and he comes outside. He said, oh, Jackie, you are here. He turns to her. He said, but why didn't you tell me? But I know you know her. It doesn't matter. Nobody was in his office. You could have walked in, So no. So I agree with you that all of these things, they flow into your work life.
Yeah.
It's like you say, when you said that, they don't even read emails. You send an email to Ghana, to the University of Ghana, and within maybe 2 hours, you send it to Liberia. That's 1 week. You still waiting. And then when they answer, it's like, oh, we didn't have internet, and we didn't have Wi-Fi. But let me tell you something, Philip, and I totally agree with you. I work in African development, and sometimes we have grants, right? We have projects that we need quick turnaround on. And I'm like, of course, I'm going to send it to Liberia, so and so. You send an email. Can you just do a proposal? Quick, quick, quick. And then you wait, and people are saying, well, where's the proposal? And you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting, and then Ghana sends it. And so people always say, why are you always going to Ghana? Ghana works. Say what you want. They respect education.
Yeah.
So of course the project's gonna go there. And then when you go home, they'll be like, oh, but you never bring project to Liberia. No, because as a Liberian, I don't want to make myself shame.
No.
I want good quality product. I tell you, Philip, sometimes when they you in a conference and they start to talk, you be like, hey, God, let me go outside. And you're right when you say that Liberians will say, but we got this person at Harvard. That's an exception.
Yeah.
That's not the rule.
No.
So you
And
put,
they're always looking for someone to celebrate.
yeah,
That's the other part of it. Like when they point to people in Harvard and other places and other spaces, there's a pride that and I think the other issue is Liberians are just so desperate for reasons to celebrate.
yes,
We have nothing to celebrate. Our environment, like we gave ourselves nothing to celebrate. And so just even little mention of Liberia, earlier on you mentioned culture and what is it to be a Liberian? What does it mean to be a Liberian?
yes, yes.
You know,
I,
what does the ordinary Liberian on the outside there? How do they understand what's their identity? As far as what are they proud of as and it's just, yeah, it's all connected.
You know, Philip, the funny thing is that when we were on the literary hour, Professor Nangbe and I, we decided to do a book, right?
Mm,
What does Liberia mean to me, right?
mm.
We did a call for papers that we were tired. We got, I think, four, and I think out of the four, two of them were like Liberia mean nothing to me. So we were shocked. But then I went to Ghana, and Ghana, they were in at one of the high school. They were doing a project on I'm a Ghanaian, and then they will write an article about what it means to them to be a Ghanaian. And I'm like, but we were trying to do this in Liberia, and people were writing Liberia doesn't mean a thing to me, and so culturally, we come back to culture before we go to how we can change all of this, because you put a very clear steps
Mm.
culturally. It's like it's almost like so like Friday is in Liberia, like Friday the vacation day, right?
Mm.
So people like they don't even go to school. People tell me, I said, oh, I need to renew my passport. Don't go there on Friday. No, right.
Yeah.
So that has been built into the culture, right? To say Friday is a day to relax.
Right.
I always will say, November 20, Totmo's birthday, I said, why don't they make it a day of volunteering? Why don't they make it a day of volunteering? What is it about us as Liberians that will make us, why are we, in fact, Dennis had that. Why is it that, it's like when you go home, you're across the street.
Mm.
This doesn't impact education, but this is part of the Liberia. You're across the street and you see a friend and they're big. When you came, when you going? And then I'm very quiet. They will make it louder. When you came, and I'm just looking. I want them to cross the street. And then when they say when you came and when you going, everybody on the street turn around to look at you. Like they're invested in your answer. you know, you know, and it's like so the culture in Liberia, I would say before the war, we valued education, but that's because and they still do, don't get me wrong, but it was instilled in the culture. This is something that you must do to rise up, and I remember that they used to say to us, they used to have these shows like Meet the Challenge. you know I went on Meet the Challenge, and then schools compete against each other, and then they get a prize, or I think they came abroad for a week and came back, right?
Right.
But now we are into, as you say, showboating. They fluff. They
Right.
and I always say people that, when people ask me to bring things for them, not a single person I know has ever asked me to bring a book. So one time I had sent boxes of books to Liberia. Nobody, you know what I did? I think it was here. I was like, do you want the box? I was giving it away because nobody wanted the books, And I tell people, my father, when he opened National Bookstore, it was his pride and joy. And so I was working there, and he used to say, don't dirty the book. I just used to hide, Philip, to read. And then as students, we would go to the Cultural Foundation to watch movies, to learn, So this enabling infrastructure was there.
Right.
It enabled us. I have never seen so many entertainment centers and bars in a country like in Liberia. And they open Saturday, Sunday, Monday, every day they open,
Yeah.
I'm like, people open their houses, their entertainment centers. And I'm thinking, what would happen if it was a library? What if it was a place of discussion, that you do a book club or something like that? I cannot believe the amount of entertainment center video clubs in the country. And
Yeah.
it comes down to political will. You know, do you think, and this is not about politics, but it's about the country, do you think that with the political will and cracking down on these video games, video clubs, things like that. I mean, where these young kids go. Do you think it would help?
Well, the fundamental thing is, yes, it would. It would. The fundamental issue is we don't have structure
Yes.
in any aspect
Any
of,
aspect.
of our society. So people don't even know how to behave themselves or where to carry themselves and how to handle themselves. Like there's no common sense of structure that exists. And that's because we are still living in a very fundamental, I don't, for lack of a better word, primitive mindset in terms of how we see our environment. So yeah, you can put anything anywhere. It doesn't matter. You can put a video club. You can put a drinking spot right in the community. All the kids are in there. There is no decorum or anything. And nobody cares about anybody. You do what you want. It's just this very it's a people uncared for,
Yeah.
and it's not, you can't blame Liberians for that. They things that one of the point I'm making in the article is these things are just a people who have been let down. Whether someone is 40-year-old, 50-year-old, 30-year-old, 20-year-old, 15-year-old, at some point, as a Liberian, the country, its politics, its leaders, its whatever has let them down.
Yeah.
And what they are exhibiting is just an example, it's just a symptom of that, because they don't know any better. They don't know that you shouldn't put the bars and the things that decorum we're looking for, that whatever like systems and structure thinking that we're looking for. Even the schools have never given it to them. So it's an environment that needs to be reset. One thing we've also demonstrated is our inability to serve the entire country. So prior to the war, there was a decent education system. There was this, there was that. There were some things that were working, but evidently we're not able to provide those at scale. Because prior to the war, it was a very few, small group of people that served, and it didn't expand that. It wouldn't expand that enough. Since then, since the war is over, we're still a tiny country with enormous wealth, and the fact that we have not figured out how to utilize our God-given natural resources, and which is our brains, the ones in the ground, our people, our bronze. We have not figured out how to leverage that and feed ourselves adequately and teach ourselves adequately. Everybody keep talking about, when they think about development, they're talking about the roads. Oh, like, you got to build the road there. You got to build this one there. You got to build this one there. The simple question is, who's going to take care of Liberians?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's going to look after Liberians? Need to be looked after. The country, the people, are so forgotten. They're what does 90% of Liberians have to do with roads? And I'm not saying don't build roads. I'm not saying don't build hospitals. I'm not saying don't build these things. I'm saying that you need to be able to solve problems based on the biggest needs. And the economics, or the development model that we seem to have jumped on board with, is that if you build the roads, if you improve agriculture value chain, if you do this, if you do that, if you do that, then the farmer can get their produce to market, da, 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 da. But where is the market? Most of the people, the 90% of the people that's supposed to buy the food can't afford it. Mm-hmm. So where is the market? Like, where are you going with that? At the end of the day, the purchasing power of the people is so it is this industriousness that you're looking for. It doesn't exist because your population is very, very impoverished in terms of their thinking, in terms of their ability to solve problems, in terms of their ability to even analyze the environment. That's why education starts. It starts with education.
Yes, yes.
When you skill, if 100,000 more Liberians were very skilled tomorrow, it changed the entire country within no time. It will change the way we solve problems very quickly. So it still comes to education. The culture and things, it's based on education. The more you learn, the more you appreciate your culture, the more you appreciate your environment.
Yeah,
the more you appreciate other people.
And you're able to ascertain right from wrong, because I'm telling you, as I said the other day, you're on Facebook, the amount of nonsense people talk with authority, you're able to poke holes in it and say, no, this is not that. If you guys who are watching, if you have questions, please put it in the chat. We have a question from Franklin Ben Weller, who is an alum of the University of Liberia. He's in the Maryland County Baltimore school system. I will read Frank's question, and then we'll go. Frank, your question will be answered now, because Philip has very clear-cut roads to follow. So Franklin says, thanks, Philip, for highlighting some of the educational problems in Liberia. So what will you advance in arresting this debacle that is eroding the fabric of the country? So first, let's focus on strategic resource allocation.
Yeah.
Right? You've broken it down as to, with limited resources, what we should do. So tell us about this strategic resource allotment.
Well, so the government is still, as a country, in terms of budget percentage, they try, in their allocation to education. And the problem we have is that the model of learning or teaching that we're using is very expensive. Mm-hmm. And it's not effective. It takes a lot to be effective. So I would firstly rethink that. But just in terms of, if we look at the article, there are two areas that I think, without even spending money or with a little bit more investment, we can start to see change, a substantial change. And the first area is the teachers, obviously.
Yes.
Now, but before I come to teachers, the first thing that we must be prepared to swallow is that a lot of people are not going to be able to cut it to enter universities. A lot of people are not going to be able to cut it to enter high school. A lot of people are not going to be able to cut it to enter junior high, and all of that. We should be okay with that. We should get comfortable with graduating 100 people from LU instead of 10,000 or 5,000 or 2,000. We should get comfortable with for a while. Because if you want to solve the problem, you have to start with assessments and evaluations on what, and you have to figure out what you're assessing for. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you do. If you say to people, if you don't meet XYZ requirements, you will not enter university, or you will not enter tertiary education, you're forcing the schools to be more answerable to parents about their kids being able to enter universities. That's the first thing. The same thing down the line towards you put the junior high assessment and the elementary assessment. You invest in those three assessments and make sure that you can deliver to quality. But most importantly, you're not just assessing. What you are assessing for is going to make the difference, because you can't just say multiple choice, circle the correct answer, and do this and do that, and then you say the best memorizer is the winner, you know, because that's all the assessment we have now, and that's what it is. An assessment is not supposed to be something that you had from parents.
Yes.
It's supposed to be it's supposed to be noon. They're supposed to know what exactly they're going to be assessed for. So it's not a mysterious thing. You automatically will force schools to invest in teachers' quality, and they will pay attention to quality differently. Before we then come to teachers, as you do that, you need to improve the teaching quality. Because the stock of teachers, people talk about private school teachers, public school teachers. For me, if you're teaching in Liberia, you're a teacher.
Yes.
So whether the child is in the public school or the private school, that child is still in Liberia. They're still a Liberian child. And so, heavy investment in the quality of teachers that you produce. Think differently, completely new about teachers, how you prepare teachers and how you put them out there. We have technology now that is so advanced. How do we figure out how to add some of that to bring some of the costs down for the way we introduce teachers? So teachers are going to be the fundamentals of everything. I went to a school in Tanzania that is, they don't have a lot. What they do is, in the community, they have one person that teaches maybe like 2 grades, and they have their classrooms. They don't have it's not a school. All they do is they acknowledge that this kid is in this level, and they go to this teacher to be educated. Now, this teacher is very good. They love it. They're passionate about educating. They are teaching the kids on how to learn. They're creating, they're motivating them around education, essentially. These kids basically become better people pursuing knowledge, because their interest in education and learning is the main thing the teacher works on. They work on their reading skills, and they work on their arithmetic and math, and they teach them psychology. They teach them like the basic building blocks of thinking, of identity, because you cannot tell the person to become something else if everyone is insecure in the world they're in. And you have to bring out their confidence. You have to make them feel responsible for themselves, give them some sort of autonomy in their ability to pursue something. So, and that program is very successful. I'm just giving an example of creativity when it comes to teaching. The point I'm trying to make is we have to rethink teachers, how we think about teaching, what the child is most important for children to learn, because the other part is we're trying to do everything. We're trying to teach them everything. You go to a school in anybody where they tell you, I'm learning 15 subjects in school. 15 subjects to go where? You can't not even learning one correct one. So it's, for me, like, it's just like, okay, we're not recognizing that teaching 15 subjects is nothing. It means nothing because we're not getting anything for it. You might as well, if only if they just knew how to read well and comprehend.
Yes. Yes.
If that was the only thing they learned, society, Liberia, will be much better because those people, you can teach them anything. But without that, even when they finish college, the learning it doesn't matter because the foundations are poor.
I mean, you touch on it about strengthening the core. You know, people, they're like, oh, we're having this other discipline, this other discipline. Can you just focus on the basics first? You know, let them learn to read and write before you start telling them, oh, we're going to introduce this other thing. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. So the core is important. And then of course there's the culture, what you call it, I quote, systemic cultural change. And you say, I quote again, cultural transformation requires systematic pressure points. And we used to do that. They used to publish the report card when you know, and at the school we were going, the smart kids will sit in front. So when you enter the class, you know, okay, the ones in front, the ones way to the back.
Yeah.
So the people at the back, they used to fight to be in the front. You say creating healthy competition through rankings, engaging community leaders in governance, when parents can see which schools perform and which fail, and when communities take ownership of their school success, excellence becomes non-negotiable. End of quote. So how do we do that? You say they'll publish the report card. And, you know, I don't even think, I think they should call their names or ERBC. You know,
Well, yeah,
Pleiwon did first place.
it would just be good to have some kind of reporting on the school that I'm sending my child to.
Yes.
What does the government think of this school?
Yes.
What is their standing? You know, as far as what you know, there's nothing. Everybody is flying blind, and there's one thing you can, rely on parents for. That is, they're gonna care. They can, you know, a lot of them will. They right now they care about the graduation because that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
So they're just following what the environment is.
Yeah.
But if you said to them that this school doesn't rank well for government, the government has disqualified a lot of this, they will think twice about sending their kids there. So even if you just created little things like that, where parents can feel a little bit more sense of involvement in the decision making of where they send their kids, that those little things and that doesn't require a lot of money. It doesn't even require for you to spend a lot of money, and that's why I keep saying that we don't have to spend a lot of money to see some of the changes that we want. We have to do something, and I'm waiting for that. And it's, you know, so it's like all the stuff that people want to do is grand and beautiful, and we'll buy this, we'll do this, we'll do that. What you need as an institution, as a country, is the system. The system is more important than the money you're spending, because the system will force the participants of the stakeholders in the system to behave a certain way. And so when I go to school, the school can only hold me to certain level of performance if the school itself success is tied to it.
I was even mentioning the other day that, you know, in China and in Rwanda, people are leaving the private schools, going to the public schools because they're so well run. You know, I think I agree that. I mean, of course, I agree that, you know, it's competence and qualification of teachers and administrators, and wanting to move the country forward, you know, and also the proliferation of these other schools that maybe don't meet the standard, could be assessed,
Yeah.
evaluated. Maybe they don't need to be high schools. Maybe they can be in an elementary school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe you don't even need to teach a lot of things. Maybe you just need to teach one thing.
yeah,
Maybe you just need to concentrate on developing the kids in a certain way. The thing is, there must be value.
yes. There
You
must be.
must you must find value. Even if you decided that okay, we're going to train over the next 5 years or 2 years or whatever, we're going to train uh, uh, school leaders. We're going to invest heavily in school leaders. Only people who have received this 2 year program, who we've qualified, who we know meet these basic criteria and are going to can run a school.
Yeah,
Automatically, you are affecting the operationalization of a school by putting more competent people, by requiring more competent people to be hired to run a school. For now, the government has requirements, but these requirements are based on paper.
yes, yes,
They're based on, oh, do you have a bachelor degree? What do you bachelor degree? Like these days, the bachelor degree people, some of them work for me. It's terrible. So you can't rely on that as a measure for someone to be able to perform. So the system is more. It's just about it's just bureaucratic, and has nothing to do with results. Nobody care about what's going on, the output, and any of that. So little things, really simple things, that even if you tell all the donors that are investing in the education space and tell them there are only two things we want you to focus on, and the rest we will focus on as a government. The two things are assessment and teachers quality and teachers training. Those are the only two things we want you to invest in. And this is the standard for this level of teacher. This is the standard for this level of teacher, and this is the standard for this level of teacher. And they have to be high standards. And you can recruit from universities, you can recruit out of universities, you can retrain old teachers, you can make the profession aspirational. Not just people who, yeah, okay, you don't have a lot of money, but yeah, if you can solve those problems, even those people that are not paid a lot of money, once they're competent people, they will care.
yeah,
They will care.
yeah. Because like people would say, oh, but nobody wants to go to Grand Jide to go teach. But like in Zambia, what they do is like people who come from the teacher training institute, because it's free. When you're done, the government is the one that sends you.
Yeah.
They send you all over the country, and you're there for I think 2 years teaching, because that's payment for the university. I sincerely think that we need a volunteer system built into the school. A 2 year service learning agreement like they do in Ghana. You
Yeah.
volunteer, you do things, because that also helps the school, that helps the under resource areas to say, okay, go do your community service, go do your national service in this place. I said that before, and people were jumping down my throat, but I'm like, look at the students that were in the university when Frank and I were going in the garden. We simply said to them, "Oh, would you like you guys can get take the leaves from here, move the thing, clean the place," and people were writing me, "That's not their job." I'm like, volunteering is part of education. You keep saying, "Oh, the university is dirty." What stops you on Saturday from having like bringing food together and say, you know what, let's clean the university. Let's do something to make the university shine. Don't you want to have a nice place to come to and say, this is my alma mater? It's really, like you said, it's the culture. And and
Yeah.
and I think that the leader must be strong and unwavering in
Yeah.
in pushing this thing of there will be no development, or development is sluggish because of the inability of our people to rise to the occasion. I think that should happen. But we don't want to forget. put your questions in the chat. If you have questions, if you just have comments, put it in the chat. Tell us a little bit, Philip, about Rise Accelerator and what they do, and how it helps Liberia.
Well, so clearly, talking about this subject and everything else, you can. The thing is, I my life is a macrocosm of the Liberian problem. I grew up during the war. That's a long story there of families and whatnot. Ended up in an orphanage, and grew up that way as an orphan. And at the end of the day, the way I see Liberia, the way I understand how much Liberia has taken from all of us, um, it has to stop. It has to stop somewhere. And that's what my company is about. We are about building the next generation of Liberian professionals. Um, we've launched this aspirational what we call it 1,000 fellow. We partner with companies across the country to identify the most promising young Liberians, and put them through a 1 year rigorous internship, paid internship with these companies that is supported by mentorship, coaching, and all sort of different programs. We're actually looking at making that 2 years, if we can, if the resources can but at the end of the day, we complain about these things. And this is what I do in Kenya. I do this in East Africa, where we, we work with some of the biggest companies on the continent in building their talent pipeline and building their labor force. And I think it's nowhere needs it more than Liberia. It's so there are young people in Liberia who are hardworking, who are looking for opportunities, and so we help them develop. We push them, and we support them, and hopefully, within the next few years, we will have a good number of good quality, hardworking, reliable Liberians that are contributing to the economy and helping. It really bothered me when I see a foreigner behind in a supermarket chopping meat, and I'm thinking, is it really something a Liberian can't do in a place where everybody is desperately poor and everybody looking for opportunities? So that's just my way of contributing to that, of helping to solve that problem. We're hoping that this will become a annual 1,000 that enroll into the program, and extend to 2 years of complete internship, where, like in Kenya, when you've gone through our program, every employer wants you. Okay. You're the first choice for employers. Companies come looking to us. Do you have anybody that we can hire? Because the people that go through our program are stellar, and that's what I want to replicate in Liberia.
Yeah, I think I saw something like that in when we went to South Africa. We were in Soweto, but they have what is it called? These credits that they gave the companies. The companies, what they do is they can have these social grants that they can and they can give these credits. So when we got there, there was a there was a, how do you call it? There was a study group, an afternoon study group, and there were computers and everything. There were women cooking, and of course the students that I took, They were asking them, oh, they thought they needed donations or something. And they said, no, we get everything from this company. I don't know the company name, but it was a big, well-known company. So what
Yeah.
we need are volunteers, to come and volunteer. But for the computers, for the food that the people cook, everything is paid for by
Yeah.
this company
Yeah.
that has this grant. So the company can go to the government now and say, look, this is what I did. This is my little social capital grant, and so what do I get from you because of that? Yeah.
Absolutely. Even in Uganda, that's what they've done is they've introduced tax rebates. They've
Yes.
introduced different recognition programs for companies, really encouraging them to be a part of the labor force development, because their energy sector, for example, is growing, and they don't want to have to also like bring it, be 3 years in and don't have local people to solve that problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we're hoping. I wish something similar could be, done for Liberia, where the government sees the need to create measures and systems that can actually rally the private sector to be a part of this, because at the end of the day, they are the primary beneficiaries of this, and the government. The government improve this. The government gets better salary
Yeah.
system. They get
Yeah.
better taxpayer. They get more productive people. This is an investment the government needs to make. But these conversations are not straightforward, depending on the environment. And I tell people all the time, I'm politicians' favorite person in Uganda, because I work with the youth,
Yes.
and the youth is a big voting bloc.
Yes.
I get politicians that come to me and say, whatever you want, I will push, I will support you to get the companies on board. The only thing I want is to be associated with the program, my name to be associated with the program, because they want, those are the voters they're looking at.
Yeah, and
But
companies need that. Companies also need qualified people. Philip, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. As you were talking, I was feeling very sad, because you're right. Our the companies, they feed into this. Now, if you're uneducated, they're not going to take you.
no,
And so everything is interrelated. So someone like the tourism industry, when I go to Zambia, if I go to the museum, if I go on a tour of the young kids in South Africa that are carrying me around, they know the history, they know the dates, they're telling you what happened, the names of people. I mean, they're so educated, you just want to keep listening to them. I went to
hmm
the museum on Broad Street the other time, went in with my daughter. I'm asking them, I just working here. Oh, I know anything. I'm like,
classic.
but what I'm saying is that, you see, when you say we're bringing tourists to the country, I mean, I was walking behind a group in Livingstone and museum, a group of Chinese tourists, and the Zimbabwean guy was speaking Chinese. I was like, whoa, just walking behind. So if you're bringing tourists to the country, you want people who know the history. You want people who can speak good English, or maybe they're even versed in the language of.
Yeah,
I was talking the other day, and somebody said to me, I mean, I agree with you when you say let's focus on the basics. But let's say we get the basics now. What I'm talking about is, let's say there are basics. I was saying the other day about studying Chinese, and somebody almost tore me apart. And I said, listen, Chinese is, I think, the fourth language being learned in the United States. This is a global country. I mean, a global world. You want to be able, we have students in the law school learning Spanish, because maybe they don't want to work in Cameroon. Maybe they want to work, or even if you have a lawyer who's coming and he's from Spain, I mean, from Mexico, maybe he wants to talk to you, and you don't know how to speak in his language. The functionality of language and career is important. you know.
Absolutely.
But I feel very, very sad when I go home, because you're right. As you say, it's the death of potential. Sometimes you meet a young child and the child is speaking to you, and you're like, wow, if only,
Yes.
if only, and then and like you say, the exception is, then they come on Facebook. Oh, my child wants to go to school. Can you pay their school fees? But that is one in a thousand. We need to focus on it. And I hope, Philip, that you will work with you will consult with the Ministry of Education. I think we have a new minister now, who is able to look at these things and see, and also, it doesn't just end with elementary school. Even at the university, you can have study groups, discussion groups, after class, after class, let's meet besides office hours. No, let's discuss. And then when we go to the professor to ask him the question, we can say, these are the questions we want to ask. You ask somebody and they say, oh, I understand nothing. No, 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 no. What are the specific things you didn't understand?
Right.
So I think that Rise Accelerator should work with, don't get tired. Work with like you know,
No, I can't get tired. I'm too much of an optimist to get
yeah.
tired. Plus, I'm one of those people who think that I'm stuck with Liberia.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
We're
I,
there.
I don't have any other home. I
No.
don't have any other, and I've gone through the cycle of grief and all the issues. I've dealt with the disappointments and all of that, and I've forgiving everything that has Liberia has basically inflicted on me and my family or whatever. But and at the end of the day, this is what we have. This is the only thing we have, and so whether it's this government or the next or whatever, we will be here. I don't see any other way. Um, my goal is, for example, in Kenya, we work with we provide talent to companies in Europe who are looking for remote workers. And so that has become, in fact, that is also another big sector in Kenya,
Yeah.
where Kenyan youth work for companies that are based in the US and Europe. And we have a center, essentially, where a remote work center where they all just show up, then they come to office, and they're working for companies in Lithuania and
Yes.
Croatia and stuff like that, and they're being paid good wages for that. Liberia is still far from that because you need to have the critical thinking skills, you need to have the communication skills, and but I would like to see that here. I would like to, with some of the group of young people we're working with, that's part of the process of helping them develop the ability to work for anybody in the world, whether they're based in the U.S. or Canada or Europe or China. You talk about speaking the language. That this other part of it is we're not thinking
Yeah.
as a people. We're not thinking about strategy. How can we think about the future? That's because the only way you can prepare yourself for the future is to understand what's going to be in play in the
Yeah.
future,
Yes.
right? China is going to be one of the major players in the future. They are now. So, and it's going to be even bigger in the future. So, learning Chinese is a competitive advantage. The more Liberians that can speak Chinese, the more Chinese companies are likely to operate here or interact or do business with Liberians. It's that simple.
Yeah.
But it's just these little things that we could do that we could invest in that make big difference, especially long term, is it's hard to get ears for these kind of things, right? Because
Yeah.
when I think about skills and talent and stuff, I look at our furniture, like furniture, for example.
Exactly.
We
Yeah.
import so much furniture.
Yes.
We have
Wood.
the best
Best.
forest
Best.
in the whole region. We're just cutting it down and shipping it off. This is one of the easiest products to convert to add value to from a manufacturing standpoint.
Yeah.
And all we thought about so far is to chop it down and send it out.
Yeah.
And without even the people, the young people that could be working in this space, we haven't thought, okay, how do we build their skills properly long term so that they can make furniture for anybody in the world.
Anybody. Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you don't just sell. It's the kind of world where now you can't do things by African standards or Liberian standards. You have to do it to global standard. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to compete.
Philip, I think it was Kofi Annan. He said the most dangerous person in the world is a man who cannot feed his family.
Yeah,
Because if he keeps coming home and seeing his wife and child hungry, hungry, there will come a time there will be nothing he wouldn't do to
yeah,
feed them. So, I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about, okay, those boys who they wash the cars, and somebody brings an automated car washer, they're out of jobs. So what are they going to do? So it's very interesting because I always say that when I go home, why are you using Famaka furniture? This thing, when the sun gets hot, it starts peeling. Where I live, the Amish people, they built these wooden furniture, and the wooden furniture, it costs 5 times
right.
Jamaica furniture, and I mean the table I'm sitting is wood. This is wood. My bookshelf is wood. I don't have Famaka in the house, but
No,
it's like part of the culture, wanting fluff and not substance,
yeah,
wanting the
and
shining thing. Yes,
yeah,
wanting the shiny
and
thing.
nobody is interested in the details.
Yes,
Nobody is interested in the basics,
yes,
because the thing about taking yourself from where we are is that you have to be so interested in planning and learning and strategizing and bringing pieces together. You have to be a tactician
yes,
essentially
yes,
to build this kind of environment, which is where we completely break down as a people on all front. It's like anytime you want to talk about details and structure and systems and planning, everything breaks down because it's too much for people.
it's too much.
And there's also with including the extended corruption that keeps these things. It's just hard. You can't. I look around us but like we have we're food insecure terribly. We have the ocean here.
Yes,
There's a lot of fish in our ocean. Why can't we? There's even the fishermen that go out at night to go fishing, and they come back in the morning. They sell the fish to the women waiting for them on the coast, and that is part of our food system. But nobody has thought about substantially building the capacity of these fishermen. Nobody cares about their health. Nobody cares about their well-being, adequately enough. There's a good quality, cheap electric boats in the world now that you don't have to spend a lot of money on to keep them safer, to give them equipment that can help them call for help, to give them fishing tools that can help them fish more efficiently and provide more food to the community and bring. So for me, it's just these little things that we overlook that are the foundation. When I talk about taking care of Liberians, in the beginning, this is how you know your government or your leaders are paying attention to you. When they solve these kind of problems, and you actually see that okay, they're actually paying attention to us. Without solving these kind of foundational problems and simple problems, it's just evident that it's a charade. Everybody is just, oh, we need to do this. Oh, the government this, the government that. It's just the same repetition of things, and it's heartbreaking to be close to it and watch it every day.
Yes.
But that's, hopefully we will get a critical, and that's not to say that there's no improvement whatsoever in the country. I don't want Liberians to think that everything is doom and gloom and there's no way out. The only problem is, we have I speak to a lot of smart Liberians every day, and it just amazes me how these people are not involved in the transformation that we need. So you see sharp Liberians, dumb system of just paralyzed inefficiency. And it's like, okay, at least the fact that we have some sharp people gives you hope for the country. Also, the country is changing. It's changing a lot. A lot of young people have different ideas of the world around them. They're learning fast. Technology access is changing the way they think and vote. Politicians are not going to be able to get away forever with ineptitude or just laziness or this lack of imagination that we're stuck in. That's the hope. That's the hope. I have a lot of confidence in even the ones in the village, the ones that don't, they're seeing how tiring it is, and this is the same story all the time from our leaders, and so we shouldn't give up. The problems are not bigger than us. We definitely we can turn this country around within a decade, within 10 years. It can be turned around.
Okay. Well, thank you. John Victor Nangwe says, great show, great ideas. Are you willing to conduct training workshops in Liberia? Have you reached out to the responsible authorities? And then I'll let you answer both at this. And then Franklin, Frank, we've been discussing this. He said, can you please talk about some of the educational structures that need to be revisited and revised to be tailored to our current situation?
Okay, on the first question, yes, I am engaging with across the different leaders and government offices and people. I'm engaging. Those engagements, as it happens in government, they're slow, but they are ongoing. In terms of changing or adapting our education system to fit to make sense, I would say let's start over. And when I say let's start over, it don't mean that nothing in the system is good. It doesn't mean that nothing in the current education system is good. But what I mean is the system we have was developed, I don't know how long ago. This way of learning, this schooling system, it was developed a long time ago. Things have changed. Lives have changed. Technology has changed. Learning has changed. The priorities have changed. Everything has changed.
Yes.
We're still stuck with the same system. And so Liberia would never catch up using the system we have.
Yes.
Never. We'll always be very far behind. So I would say my first react, my first thing would be, let's sit down and rethink education. Let's think about at the primary level, what do we want our kids to to look like when they finish primary school? What outcomes specifically are we looking? What kind of people do we want? The same thing along the way, and how are we going to measure for those? What tools are we going to use to teach? Who's going to teach them? How are we going to find those people? How are we going to take care of those people? Um, how much of that can we do now? Because that's the other problem. That's where everything breaks down. Everybody says the money is not enough to go around, to do this, to do that. So at the end of the day, we just talk. But I would say it's time to sit down and rethink everything with a clear mind, with different partners on board, different people on the table, experts from different walks of life, Liberians, and reimagine our education.
And like Jay Victor said, would you be willing that maybe the new Minister of Education, if she calls, I one time I even mentioned that on the Facebook, that they will call a conference to discuss Liberian's educational system, and they will say that the conference is next week. I'm like, excuse me, it takes us almost 4 or 5 months to organize a conference, and you want a conference next week. So I hope she's listening. I hope somebody can send her this broadcast, so that if she's trying to bring minds together to discuss the educational system, people like Dr. Michael Wana, Anastasia Simmons, and our own Philip Pleiwon can join to discuss. And so we're
I'm
asking.
always open, always open. I'm very open to the minister, to anybody in Liberia. I don't want a job. I'm not looking for a
Yes, true.
contract. No, because you have to say that too.
Yes,
I,
yes,
I don't even you don't even have to pay me, as long
yes,
as it's about solving some problems and I can be a part of it. I'm very open to that.
yes. I always say that we don't want a job; we just want to help. Yes, but thank you so much. And I was thinking, I said, it could be as easy as, if you have a restaurant, or a place where people just go to drink. Maybe you want to put a documentary on, an educational documentary. Not every day you put African movies on, or any kind of movie, or the Fast and the Furious or whatever. Just documentary and educational. And then
Educational content.
you hear people say, turn that thing off. Don't
Yeah,
turn it off. It's your
I don't understand. I can't understand what's happening. They
Yeah,
they can't follow deep plot, so it's harder.
yeah.
It's,
But
the African shows keep it simple.
yeah, but we want to thank you so much for. His article is called "The Death of Potential: Liberia's Self-Inflicted Education Crisis." It was published February 5th, I think, 2005. Yeah, guest essay. So updated, they said, but please go and read it. Send it, share it with other friends. If you have questions, you can find Philip's email, or send it to Focus on Liberia, and we'll send it to him. So please read it. Try in your own way to use some of the steps he has to help the educational system in Liberia. So Philip, we want to say thank you so much for spending your day with us. What time is it there?
It's what is it? 7? Yeah, almost 8.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's all good. Thank you. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Yes.
Appreciate you guys having me on, and I'm open to. I enjoy talking to you, and I hope we can continue this conversation.
Okay, and we will play the song and end the show. But please stay. Don't log out. Just stay on. Yeah,
Okay.
the song will play, and then I want to just talk to you for like a minute before you leave.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, so as we're closing with our closing song, we say, whether you went to public school, you went to private school, whether you like African movies, whether you like any kind of movies, whether you go to the video club, we are all Liberians, and it behooves us, it behooves us to build the country. So good night, and stay well and enjoy the weekend.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our home. Liberia people.